never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Fine.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Happy Friday to everybody out there. What a massive trade from the National Basketball Association that just happened about 48 hours ago. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, but first I want to tell you what's in store for the NFL this weekend. Of course, I'm not going to talk about last night's game because it's not in store. It's already happened, and you know it's already happened because it's Friday and the game was last night. But as far as this Sunday and Monday goes, Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we have the Atlanta Falcons and the Jacksonville Jaguars from London. And it seems like the Jaguars have played a game over there about once a year for the past 10 or so years. So maybe the Jaguars are the de facto NFL franchise over there because it seems like they go there now on a yearly basis. 1 o'clock, we have the Dolphins and the Bills. We'll see if the Bills can slow down that Dolphins offense. Then we have the Vikings at the Panthers. That's two 0-3 teams facing off, so somebody has to get their first win of the season. Another game pitting two winless teams against each other is the Broncos and the Bears. I know I mentioned a few days ago that I thought that was the Monday night football game, and it was bad because if it was, nobody would watch it. But since it is a Sunday at 1 o'clock and it's not the only NFL game on like it would be on Monday night, there won't be near as many people watching it, but depending on the market you live in, it may be the 1 o'clock game in your market. Then we have the Ravens at the Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Houston Texans. Then we have the Rams at the Colts, the Bucks at the Saints, the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll go ahead and say that I think the Commanders pick up the win in that game. And then we have the Bengals at Titans. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers this or not, but back, I would say, April, May, somewhere along in there, there was talk that the Tennessee Titans were considering trading Derrick Henry and just blowing it up and starting all over again. And they did try to trade Derrick Henry. I don't know how much they tried, how hard they tried, and how many times they tried. But I do know that I read a couple of articles where they tried to trade him, but they just wanted too much, so they didn't trade him. But just the fact that they're thinking about trading him lets me know that the Titans are thinking about just throwing the towel in with this current roster and starting over again, because I think they realized they've gone about as far as they can go with the current roster they have. Most years they're good enough to win the division, because that division most years is flat out awful. So most years 9 wins the division, but they're normally good enough to win the division, and then after that in the playoffs, that's it. And it's going to be hard to trade Derrick Henry, because this day and time, nobody values running backs. It's become a passing league so much now that if you have a running back you want to trade, nobody's going to give up 4 or 5 players for a guy that is really going to be good for 2 or 3 years. And running backs now just aren't valued anymore. So if they try to trade Derrick Henry and they want 4 or 5 players in return, it's not happening. But at the same time, you don't want to trade somebody that good and not get your return on investment, so to speak. But if the Titans lose Sunday and fall to 1-3, even though they've already tried to trade Derrick Henry, they may go ahead and try again and try to trade a few other players as well. And I think as long as they've got Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, they've gone as far as they can go. 4:05 Sunday, we have the Raiders at the Chargers. Now, Chargers head coach Brandon Staley has to be on the hot seat for that team with all that talent just not making the playoffs. And if they lose Sunday, especially to the Raiders, he's definitely going to be on the hot seat. You'll be 1-3 with one of the best rosters, top to bottom, in football. I don't know if you caught the Chargers game last week or not, but late in the game, the Chargers are up 28-24 with about 1:45 to go in the game, and they're 4th down, I think it was 2, from their own 24-yard line. And all they've got to do is punt and hope their defense does its job against Minnesota. But instead, Brandon Staley chooses to go for it on his own 24-yard line. Now, I think his theory and thinking behind that was, we're up by 4, so even if we don't get it, they get the ball, they still have to score a touchdown. So had they been up by only 1 or 2, maybe 3, he probably kicks a punt. And I say probably because with him, you never know, but I think he would have punted. But since they were up by 4, I think his thought process was they've got to score a touchdown. But the Chargers defense really hasn't been great this year, so Minnesota scoring a touchdown wasn't a long shot. They went for it, didn't get it, but luckily the Chargers defense did hold. But had he lost that game, been 0-3 with this roster, he may have been fired Monday morning. 4:25, we have the Patriots at the Cowboys and the Cardinals at the 49ers. The Sunday night game is the Chiefs and the Jets, and since Aaron Rodgers is out for the year and the Chiefs are so good, I don't think anybody will watch that game except for the die-hard Chiefs fans and the die-hard Jets fans, and that's about it. Monday Night Football this week, unlike the last 2 weeks, will only have one game, and that is the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Football Giants. Normally, after this weekend, since we'd have 4 games under our belt, we would say it's 1/4 of the NFL season is done. But now that they've gone from 16 games to 17 games, there really ain't no quarter of the season unless you want to say 4 full games and a quarter of your 5th game is a quarter of the season. But ain't nobody going to evaluate after 1/4 in your 5th game of the season. So I guess you could still say this Sunday and Monday will mark 1/4 of the NFL season being completed. But in case you have not heard, we just had a huge trade in the NBA. It was a 3 team trade. The biggest player traded was Damian Lillard. Now, a lot of people have wondered for years why Damian Lillard was so happy staying in Portland when Portland's been the same franchise now for about 7 or 8 years. They're typically good enough to make the playoffs, but generally in the first round, they're out because they never, ever made any big attempt and any big effort to improve. They would go out and trade for a backup player, or they would go out and draft a player that's going to make a difference 5 years down the road. But they never went out and got a huge superstar. And the NBA is full of superstar players, superstar teams. If you only have one superstar, you're not winning. But he always seemed like he was fine being in Portland. He finally decided he wanted out. So Damian Lillard gets traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. So now they will be good with Damian Lillard and Giannis. The Portland Trailblazers get Drew Holiday, who's actually not a bad point guard. He comes from Milwaukee. And then they get big man DeAndre Ayton from the Suns and a first-round pick in next year's draft. And the Suns get Jusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson. So we had 7 players traded, plus the Blazers get a first-round pick. And honestly, I think Drew Holiday is probably one of the most underrated point guards in the NBA. He's not as good as Damian Lillard, but I don't think the Blazers are going to fall off a whole lot with Drew Holiday. As a matter of fact, getting Drew Holiday and DeAndre Ayton, they're probably going to be about the same as they were before. They're going to be a 35 to 45 win team, might sneak in the playoffs as a 9 or 10 seed, winning the play-in round, and then that'll be it. But a huge trade in the NBA with Damian Lillard getting traded. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What did one toilet say to the other? You look flushed. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.